Welcome back to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. I'm your host, Jessica Glover, and this is Season 3, From Resistance to Revolution. This season is about the people changing literacy from the ground up. Parents, teachers, advocates, and those of us who once trusted a system we thought we understood, until we learned the truth. Season 3 is about courage. The courage to question what we were taught, to confront what wasn't working, and to step into a movement rewriting the future of millions of children. And we begin here with the teacher's story, because everything that follows depends on understanding one thing. Our teachers were never given the training they needed to teach reading based on how the brain actually learns. Not in Kansas, not in most of the country. Parents weren't told that. Teachers weren't told why their programs were failing kids. And no one told families what that gap would cost. But now the truth is finally coming to light. And once you know better, you fight for better. This season, we're diving into the heart of that fight. Teacher voices, parent advocacy, misdiagnosis, and SPED blind spots. Rural organizing, systemic barriers, the realities and the hope of dyslexia. Because this revolution isn't just about exposing gaps. It's about teachers who are searching for real training, teachers who are trying to bridge theory to practice, teachers who want coaching and support, teachers who are learning the science of reading for the first time, and teachers who still haven't been given the chance, but deserve to be equipped to help every child read. Season 3 is the story of resistance becoming revolution, of parents finally being told the truth and learning how to advocate, of communities rising when the system says no, and of a movement refusing to look away. Season 3 starts right here. Let's begin. In rural Kansas, resources can feel miles away. No dyslexia specialists, no reading intervention programs, no support for struggling readers unless you create it yourself. And that's exactly what some families, teachers, and community leaders have done. Today, we're telling the story of the local revolution in literacy, how parents, educators, libraries, and even faith communities are rising to fill the gaps, one child at a time. When the system says no, grassroots organizing. The rural reality. Meet the rural parent. They call the district and hear, there's no funding for that. We don't have those services here. Before communities organize, before solutions appear, there's usually a moment of isolation when a parent realizes help isn't coming unless they push for it themselves. Jen Barrett spent 3 years trying to teach her daughter Emily the alphabet and numbers with no progress despite constant effort. When she finally enrolled Emily in public school and requested dyslexia testing, the response was dismissive. It's at least 5 years out and Emily's not a problem. When Jen persisted, citing a family history of learning challenges, she was told, "You're not educated and you have no idea what to really look for." This moment captures the isolation many parents face. They see the problem, try everything, and the system tells them help isn't coming, or that they're not qualified to even recognize the issue. The financial and emotional toll is real, as Jen explains.
So I went to the homeschool group that we were a part of, and I talked to every parent there. And they were like, oh, use this curriculum. Oh, use that curriculum. There's nothing wrong with the curriculums, but it wasn't helping. I spent probably $5,000 on curriculums trying to find a curriculum that would help her, and nothing helped. And I was at my wit's end.
Stories like Jen's show exactly why teachers trained in structured literacy are so critical. In these districts, educators often haven't had that training, leaving families to navigate a system that wasn't built to support them. That's where teachers like Michelle Schmidt step in. Michelle has spent more than 3 decades in Kansas classrooms, general education, Title I, and now working daily with students who were once told or quietly made to feel that reading wasn't for them. What makes Michelle's story powerful isn't just what she learned, it's what she was never taught and how that realization changed everything.
When I went through college, it was whole language. And there wasn't, you had your readings methods class, and then there was an ELA class, and then there was a children's lit class. I don't remember phonics being, talked about much. We read children's books. So the science of reading wasn't there, not like we know now. I wish the training that I had through the Fundamental Learning Center, I wish I would have had that in college. And I always thought I was a pretty good reading teacher before. I was 3rd grade, and my kids usually performed pretty well on the state test as a whole. And I thought, wow, that's my strength. And then I go to Fundamental Learning Center and learn alphabetic phonics, and it's like, oh no. Yeah, I could have been a lot better reading teacher. My career would have looked so different. I would have helped so many more kids, because I even think now, oh my goodness, what I've learned would help all readers.
This isn't about bad intentions. It's about systems stretched thin and sometimes missing entirely. Community-led solutions. And then something amazing happens. Communities take action. Parents form local reading groups. Libraries host tutoring programs. Faith communities step in to support literacy efforts. Town halls, social media groups, and local press amplify the message. One parent who has been on the forefront of this work is Heather Mora. Heather's oldest child faced early reading challenges due to auditory processing issues, and she quickly realized that waiting for the school system to identify and help wasn't enough. She refused to accept no and worked tirelessly to make sure her kids got the support they needed. And in doing so, she's now helping to shape literacy supports in her local schools.
They don't get diagnosed till they're 8 or 9, which we didn't follow through with that because I already knew he had the issues. After doing the research on that, I had told my husband if he can hear, but he can't process what he's hearing, he's not going to be able to learn to read in a traditional school setting. And you have to be able to read to do every single subject. And I was not going to put him in a situation where he was going to fail. I also did not want to put him in a situation where he was trying to learn one way and it wasn't working, so he's frustrated all day, and then he comes home and goes to a tutor. That was what I didn't want to happen. I know that some parents choose to go ahead and do traditional schools and then do the tutoring and the help after.
And here's Heather talking about the moment her advocacy started to pay off.
I've talked to principals, I've talked to counselors, I've talked to everyone because, they have different plans that we work on. So I bring it up in those meetings. I bring it up anytime that there's a challenge that maybe the teacher could understand students that manage these things if they were to go to a simulation. And finally, we have it to where Eisenhower is going to be doing it in February, which is very exciting.
This is what community-led solutions look like. One parent's persistence, sparking change that reaches far beyond her own children. The dyslexia simulation Heather advocated for bringing to Goddard School District gives educators a chance to experience a day in the life of a dyslexic learner, helping them better understand the hallmarks of auditory processing challenges. The Experience Dyslexia, a Simulation, is a free workshop designed for parents, teachers, or advocates who want to learn more about dyslexia firsthand. You can call 316-684-7323 to register for an upcoming simulation date that works best for you. Parents like Heather don't just act out of determination. They act because timing matters. Literacy advocate and Kansas mom Alana McWilliams explains why waiting costs kids far more than we realize.
We know that if we intervene with kids before age 9, 90% are going to reach grade level. If we delay intervention to after age 9, 75% will struggle their entire academic careers because with structured literacy, they will learn to read.
This is the revolution at the local level. Change doesn't wait for policy. It starts at the kitchen table, in living rooms, and in classrooms where someone refuses to give up. But what's happening in these rural communities is more than goodwill. It's what fills the vacuum when systems step back. Dyslexia researcher and specialist Timothy Odegaard, whose work you've heard throughout Season 3, has studied what happens after literacy laws pass and why communities often end up carrying the work themselves. To learn more about his research, we've linked his most recent article in the show notes.
It's not laws that solve the problems of the world, it's the people who enact the laws. And so they often don't think about the systems that support the work that has to be done, nor the knowledge it takes to carry that work out, and the time and funding that it takes to really bring something to fruition. Then on the back end of that, I think that policymakers and other people in high levels really forget that to support people, to get the buy-in that you need to do something, that means you have to be consistent. And all too often, it's just you pass the law and then the gaze shifts. But it's going to take years to really implement a law to full implementation and do it well. Policymakers just forget that if you care about something, you don't just pass a law and walk away. You have to stay there until it's done. And the done is that in the case of literacy legislation, kids are able to read and write for themselves and go off and be gainfully employed and have lifelongs of learning and happiness.
When the gaze shifts, kids don't stop struggling. So parents don't wait. Teachers don't wait. Communities don't wait. They build what their children need right where they are. Stories of impact. Let's hear from a mom who's seen the impact firsthand. Advocacy doesn't just change policy. It changes how children see themselves. And for Heather Mora's boys, the results were tangible.
They both are very lucky in different ways that they got to go to RLA. So fortunate that it's here in Wichita. So fortunate that they were able to go through that and have the great teachers that they had. They both are reading well above their level. My oldest, the teacher said that she never had a kiddo be able to read at his level whenever he finished, because it was well above even high school level. So he would have been finishing 5th grade.
Heather's story shows what happens when a parent refuses to accept no. But lasting change only happens when schools build the kind of support that doesn't depend on one family fighting alone. Out in Skyline, Michelle Schmidt has the privilege of serving dyslexic children using the alphabetic phonics program all day long. She says she has the best job in this school, and we know it's because she received training that is literally changing lives one day at a time. This is just one of the stories she hears on a weekly basis from students' mainstream teachers after working with her.
One of my middle school kids, I started tutoring him the summer after his 1st grade year. Then I had him in class. Anyway, at the ball game, they always read the Keisha rules ahead of time. And the coach had asked one of the boys if they would read it to the crowd. And one of the boys declined. And my student says, "I'll do it." And he read in front of the whole crowd.
Wow.
Keisha rules. And that's one thing I see in these kids. They're confident. They're learning to advocate for themselves.
No.
They know their strengths. They know what I'm weak in. We just have so many organic conversations that just happen in the classroom that help them not only with their reading, but also, okay, this is what I need. Mm-hmm. You got to tell them, let them know. And so, I think especially my older kids that had struggled for so long, knowing that, it's not me. It's not that I'm not working hard enough, or it's my brain works differently. And I, when I'm with them, I own it. I said, we did not know how to teach you correctly. Mm-hmm. Now we know better and we're going to do better. And they're like, you could just see kind of like, all these years, it wasn't me. I am smart. I do have strengths, and the kids that were coming like in the door every day with their head down and didn't want to be here are walking through the hallways, smiling, greeting everybody in the morning. Our counselor, has told me stories about, oh my goodness, when they come in now, they're happy to be here. And, it's life.
That makes my heart so happy.
This is life-changing stuff.
Every story shows the same thing. When the system says no, communities rise. And here's the hard truth. Identifying a child is only the beginning.
One of the mistakes that they keep making is that identification or screening is the solution. It's part of the solution. So screening will have a net advantage based on research. However, if the students don't get what they need instructionally and the teachers don't have the time to implement the intensification of instruction, and they don't understand how to read those screening data to understand how to intensify instruction, then you will never see outcomes. And so we oftentimes find that identification rates aren't shifting too much. And when we talk to teachers, it's because, well, if I find them, I don't know what to do with them. And what teacher wants to be able to, teacher wants to be able to know what to do when he or she is placed with those students. So we see the mistake is that they're not really leaning into how to understand the screening data, and then we're not training them to be able to do the differentiated and intensified instructional interventions that we need.
That's not a failure of families. It's not a failure of educators. It's what happens when responsibility is handed down without support to carry it. Lessons, limits, and reality. Local revolutions are powerful, but they also have limits. Not every town has volunteers. Not every parent can drive hours for testing. And without systemic support, sustainability is fragile. Yet these small victories matter. Each child identified, each teacher trained, each community that refuses to give up. They build momentum, and they reveal something critical. In stronger systems, dyslexic students become more visible. In weaker ones, they disappear.
When you have poor systems in school that have poor literacy instruction, you wind up with lots of kids who are going to screen for risk and who are going to fail a high-stakes state reading test. What that means is that even though dyslexia is not rare, it's not 40%, it's not 50%, it's not 60% of the kids in your school, it's not 70%. So when we start to see epic underperformance out of schools, what my research shows is the identification of dyslexia goes to zero. What I've demonstrated is that in higher performing schools that have better systems or better support from the community and external resources to come in and elevate the instruction happening in the school, we see them better performing on state ratings of schools. And in those instances, that's where we find the highest rate of kids with dyslexia. So it takes the schools doing a really good job of educating their teachers and the communities wrapping around to support those students in those endeavors and those schools. And when we don't have those in place, then we see kids with dyslexia not being found or identified. Because it's not the case that we have 50, 60% of kids with dyslexia. It's a high incidence disability, but that's still not as high as 30, 40, 50% of your kids, 60% of your kids.
Yeah.
They can't all have dyslexia. So how do you distinguish the kids who have dyslexia from the ones who are just the victims of poor education? Response to intervention, we know that it's creating a system in place where it becomes the exception and not the rule. We know the answer to that. It's just hard because that means it takes systemic change and elevating all the education for all the students.
Not because dyslexia is suddenly more common, but because children who were always here are finally being seen. Advocacy doesn't inflate numbers, it reveals truth. Across rural, suburban, and urban Kansas, the pattern is the same. Advocacy activates the system, and it turns legislation into real support. Calls to action. And here's how you can take action right now. Parents, Trust your instincts. Document concerns. Request screenings. Share your story even with one other family. Teachers, seek structured literacy training. Partner with families. Every conversation brings evidence-based instruction closer to kids. Advocates, mentor, organize, connect. Every meeting and email builds momentum. Every action counts. Every voice matters.
Hi, I'm Anne from Phillips Fundamental Learning Center. If you're a Kansas educator who wants to transform how you teach reading, our Structured Literacy Intervention Specialist course is for you. We have multiple options, including 2-week intensive courses, which will take place over the summer in June and July, or 16-week evening courses starting in August. But here's the best part. If you're a Kansas educator, we may have scholarships available for you. I'd love to help you through the process. Just email me at achandler@funlearn.org or give us a call at 316-684-7323.
History didn't start with the science of reading. Long before task forces and headlines, there were educators who preserved this knowledge quietly, stubbornly, and with fierce compassion. One of those people is coming up in a special bonus episode, Joyce S. Pickering. For more than 50 years, Joyce trained teachers, guided families, and kept structured literacy alive when few others would. Joyce S. Pickering, the elder of the revolution. Trust me, you'll want to hear her story, because revolutions don't start loud, they start small, and that's how systems change. Thanks for listening to My Child Can't Read, a Heartland Crisis. If today's episode resonated with you, if you saw yourself, your child, or your classroom in these stories, you're not alone. We believe every child can learn to read, and every parent and teacher deserves the knowledge to help them. I invite you to take action today by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode, rate and review to help others find this series, and tell us about your story and discover how the Phillips Fundamental Learning Center is changing lives through literacy at funlearn.org/podcast. That's funlearn.org/podcast. And share this show with a friend, teacher, or fellow parent who needs to hear it. All resources, source credits, and tools mentioned in this episode can be found in the show notes. Remember, together we can rewrite the story one reader at a time right here in the Heartland.